Welcome to the Great Transition Senior Living Seminar Series. We're going to be tackling the topic today of Giving Yourself the Advantage, Part 2. Today we're going to be talking about the brain. As many of you know, Great Transitions was founded back in 2013, and it's a system for working with seniors and their families as their lifestyle and housing needs change. When you're getting ready to make a downsizing move, it could be 3 to 5 years, 12 to 18 months. Sometimes it's a big amount of space, or sometimes a life event can expedite that change really quickly. We want to be here to help you create your plan so that when you need to implement that plan, you're implementing the plan that you want, not the one that someone else is picking out for you. We're here to guide you through the entire process of doing just that. We genuinely believe helping and guiding seniors is our greatest calling, and we're honored to be here and help with that. Our purpose here today and with our seminar series is education. We're here to talk about different things: legal, financial, housing, medical, and other areas of interest and topics of importance. We're not here to sell you anything. The educational partners that help us put this seminar series on are not here to sell you anything either. We're here to be an information source, and we hope that you'll call on us. We do ask you a challenge every time, though, and that is this: who will be tasked with making decisions for you when you're no longer able to do so? And will you agree with the decisions that they make for you? Have you created your plan yet? And have you shared that plan with the people that are going to execute that plan for you? Something to think about. And we're glad you're here. And I am grateful for those of you that have been coming for so long, have been tweaking your plans as you go. Some of you have your plan in place and you know exactly what's going to happen. That's awesome. Others of you might have a plan in place, or maybe a plan A and a plan B, and that's great too. And some of you may still be thinking about it. Congratulations. Keep thinking and start putting it together. With that said, we're going to jump into our topic of brain health. I was remarking earlier that I think this is the third seminar I've done on brain health, and this one's going to take a little bit different tack. We're going to look at being a little more proactive in this seminar. Brain health refers to how well a person's brain functions across several different areas: cognitive health, motor function, emotional function, tactile function, sensory function. All of these things are different, controlled by different parts of the brain, and different aspects of brain health that we want to look into. Now, this can be a little bit of a heavy topic. A lot of people are like, ooh, I don't want to talk about my brain because it might not be working as well as it used to be working. But we've got to flip the script on that. One of the things I often share when talking about the brain is something I heard Hugh Downs say probably 25 years ago on 2020. And he said, it's not when you forget where your car keys are that's an issue. It's when you forget what your car keys are for that you probably need to get some help, right? And so our file cabinets get full over time, and sometimes it takes a little longer to find that information. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. And our goal in talking about this is to make it more commonplace to talk about brain health, to say to your friend, just like you say to your friends and family members, did you get your colonoscopy? Have you had your mammogram yet? Did you have your prostate checked? We talk about those things, but do we ask them, have you had your brain checked? Did you do your annual brain exam? Right? And we need to make that commonplace. So that's one of the things I'm charging you with as we leave the seminar today. Before we get started, I'm going to ask our esteemed panelists to introduce themselves. Robin, I'll start with you because you've already sort of introduced yourself.
Sort of, yeah. So my name's Robin Roundtree. Most of my grown-up life I spent in radio. Then I had to take care of my mother with Lewy body dementia for 6 years. It was a tough go. Hardest thing I have ever done, hardest thing I'll ever do. But when she passed, her best friend asked me, what are you going to do with what you've been through? And I tried to close the book on that chapter, but that's not what life had intended for me. So I spent 4 years in home care and coming up on my 4th year in the Alzheimer's and Dementia Resource Center, trying to educate people about the things that I didn't know when I was going through it.
Love that.
Yeah.
You've used what you experienced
Yes.
as a force for good.
My brother says I got my master's degree in careering because I did it for 6 years.
That's a tough degree.
Yeah, it's expensive too.
Yeah, yeah, and on a lot of levels.
Yes.
Christine?
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Rothenberger, and I am the director of Brain Fitness Academy, which is a ministry of Holy Trinity Greek Orthodox Church. Our program is 3 years old, and the objectives of the program would be to slow down and preserve cognitive changes that people may be experiencing. And we do that by focusing on physical activity, socialization, brain activities, paper pencil activities, some things on the screen and on the computer, and a lot of variety to stimulate and wake up the brain. I came to that program, it's really my brain fitness to have come out of retirement to direct this program, but I came to it from long-term care in a community setting for 22 years. But I like to say that everything I learned about social work and caring for people, because families are my passion, was by being a daughter and a sister and a loved one within my family. So the whole body of background and knowledge has come to force here by creating the program, the infrastructure, the communication, working with our families, referring them where they need to be referred, often to ADRC, for support, for guidance, and to also let them know about what we have to offer. We are not a religious program, but we are a ministry of the church. So,
Well, thank you both for being here
Thank you.
today. I think as planned, which is always great when the plan happens, a lot of what you heard at our last seminar about physical exercise and nutrition is going to be resonated today. So I think the tie-in will be really good. Take good notes. If you were unable to be here last seminar, it is going to be on our website here. Is it on there? I think it is. Yeah, it should be up pretty quickly. So you may want to go back for a refresh. Well, let's jump into our questions. Robin, I'd like to start with you.
Okay.
Cognitive decline is inevitable as we age. Is that a fact or myth?
That is a myth. That is a myth. Somebody asked me, like, why did I not hear about all this dementia when I was growing up? And I think we just said they're senile, or we pushed them off to the side, and mom was already home taking care of the kids, so they weren't looking for a facility. So it's always been there, but we're learning a lot more about it. And everything in our body changes as we age. My knees don't sound the way they did when I was 20. They make all sorts of noises now. So yes, your brain will be affected by age, but not dramatically. All right, so we'll get into this, but it's when your brain changes affect daily life, that's when we have a problem. Forgetting where you put your keys, that's not a major problem unless it happens every day and you don't find it after like 5 hours. So that stuff is normal. It happens to us. Carol and I were joking about we're going through a certain season of life. Brain fog comes with that. So yes, I did have a little test done to see if it was dementia, because I work in this world, or just my hormones were off, and thank goodness it was my hormones. But different things can change how our brain works, and we'll get into that. But like stress and sleep and everything, if you clear up that problem, your brain will get better, unless we've gone into another realm of the disease.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. So Chris, how do we best preserve our cognitive function? We know we're living longer. How do we go about that?
Well, we are living longer, and I want to share with you what I would call the top 6 items that allow us and encourage us and support us in taking control of our health and our well-being. Physical activity is usually at the very top of the list, and I know you've heard this before. We all have heard this before. I'm a poster child for trying to get back into my exercise routine on a very regular basis, and so I understand struggling with that, but it's critically important for our blood sugar, for our well-being, for our joints, and all of those things, and increasing the blood flow to the brain, which is a good thing. It builds cognitive reserve by challenging our brain. A healthy diet is really important. One that is very low in sugar, and I'm working on this, processed foods, salt, and the biggie is not smoking. So if you are a smoker, you were a smoker, we probably have some risks there, but you should really work on that, because that increases all kinds of physical and cognitive issues over time. Maintaining social ties, strong social ties and connectedness with other people. You should be applauded for being here today, because you're doing something for a few hours to really stimulate your brain and think about new things, and perhaps in a different way. Another item is quality sleep, and that means different things for different people. If there is an issue with sleep, where you're not sleeping enough and you're not getting into that deep sleep that they talk about needing, you should probably have a chat with your doctor, because sleep is very, very important to restoring our brain. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on. So I would say those are the top things that build reserve and preserve what we have.
Love that. And I love how, again, it echoes what we talked about last month.
I'm sure,
So,
yeah.
yeah, that's really good. Robin, we tend to use dementia and Alzheimer's interchangeably, but it's not.
It's not the same thing. You're not doing a big faux pas if you say they have Alzheimer's and dementia. That's usually what people say. But dementia refers to the symptoms, the changes in the brain that are causing problems with everyday life. Memory is the big one that we think of with dementia, but your brain is the command center for your whole body. So we can come with personality changes, changes to how we walk, changes to how we move around, executive function, that's figuring out how to do things, remembering how we've done things before, the getting lost thing, your spatial intelligence, that part of your brain is changing. So dementia is that umbrella term that refers to all the symptoms of the brain changes. And then we have different causes for the brain changes. So Alzheimer's disease is the leading one for now. We also run the Florida Brain Bank, and we're seeing most dementias are mixed. So that means there's more than one disease happening in the brain. So Alzheimer's, we have vascular dementia, because there's a big relationship between the heart and the brain. Lewy body dementia is what my mother had. We also have like 97 more kinds of dementia. Right. So when we say Alzheimer's, we're referring to what the doctor has diagnosed you with as his best guess, because we don't know for sure until the autopsy. Okay? And dementia is the range of symptoms. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, so now that we have a better understanding of this whole umbrella of dementia, let's pop back to some of these preservation things. Let's say we're physically active,
Okay.
and maybe we take a fall and we don't resume our physical activity, or we can't. Does that hurt our brain if we're pausing on our physical activity?
Yes. Okay, because whatever is good for your heart is good for your brain. And we know exercise is really good for our heart. But if that blood it's pumping doesn't get up through your neck and to your brain, it's not getting the food that it needs to keep functioning. So you may have had a problem with your knee, but I'm sure a physical therapist can find a way to get your heart going if you sit on a recumbent bike or something. So yes, physical activity is very important. If you got to take a break, make it a short one.
Okay.
Every Monday is a great day to get started again.
And it's hard to get back in though if you,
Yeah.
I mean, I experienced that when I had my foot surgery in December. I was non-weight bearing for 8 weeks.
Mhm.
Those, getting back to the gym or back to dancing was tough.
Right. But do something.
Okay.
I just had a guest on my podcast, and she said, you're not working to get into a bikini at age 95, okay? You are working so you can get off the toilet in 20 years. This
Good
needs
point.
to be your focus, okay? You are gaining, as I call it, my old lady body. That is what I'm working on. The size of my pants, not that important to me anymore, but I want to be able to get off the toilet.
By myself.
Yeah, by myself, no assistance. So what I'm doing now is affecting what my body will be able to do when I'm 70.
Love it.
So even if you can't do the full workout, do the walk around the block.
Gotcha. Good. Chris, let's expand community a little bit as it relates to the brain, because what we're doing here is community. What you do in
Yes.
your program is community. Talk to us about that a little bit.
Yes. Community is really critical. It's the opposite of isolation. It might help to think of it that way. But what does community actually mean? It can mean a small group. It could mean the people in your apartment community, perhaps, the people on your floor and a couple of neighbors. Could mean the neighbors across the street in another house. Could be a church community, or a temple or religious community, or a social community. But who are your people? It's really important to find your tribe, even as we get older, to continue working on that, because it can change and it can grow. The reason it is important is because being as a part of a group boosts cognitive function, which we've already talked about. It boosts and strengthens memory and emotional resilience, and it lowers the risk of dementia and cognitive change. Strong ties within the family or within a community, however you define community, will reduce stress, inflammation that we often experience as we get older. Things change, joints change, and there's considered to be an inflammatory response, often in relation to certain diagnoses. So being part of a community can really help that and increase positive hormones, like the dopamine that we need for firing that brain. So think of it as mental exercise for the brain. Community is really mental exercise and food for the brain.
Love that. Robin, let's talk about how maybe some different ways where we can increase our social engagements. When I was driving here today, my college roommate called me. We talk pretty regularly, and she said, "Have you started learning how to play mahjong yet?" And I said, "No." She says, "Well, you better get busy because we're getting together in August." And she said, "We're going to play mahjong, so you need to learn how to play." And I'm like, "Ooh, that's a lot of work."
Yeah.
Right? So what are some ways that we can increase our social engagements, and what do we do if like being in a group is not our favorite thing?
It's okay. Not everybody is a social butterfly. I've had those seasons where I'm like, I don't want to go out and talk to anybody, but you can't let that season become your life. Just think about when you're watching TV, you're just not using a lot of your brain. You're following the plot, you may laugh. But when I'm talking to you, I'm listening. I'm understanding what you're saying. I'm thinking about what I'm going to say to you next. I'm like, I haven't seen him for a while. What's changed? He's still looking good. You know, it's your brain's really going when you work with somebody. So it can be one-on-one. Start there. So start with going out with your friend and talking. I like face-to-face better. We all learned during COVID that it's not quite the same when we're not face-to-face. And then kind of build up from there. Also, I think volunteering is a great way. Say, I'm going to give you 2 hours, you know, you're in, you're out, you have your assignments, and then you get to leave. So I know a lot of people kind of get overwhelmed in a big social environment. So just start with those few hours. Like, I wouldn't tell you to run a 5K tomorrow if you wanted to be into exercise. So to get over loneliness, start small and then grow.
Okay. Chris, did you have anything you wanted to add to
Well,
that?
I would totally endorse what Robin just said. I think it's important within all that to find your purpose. What is your purpose? How many times have you asked yourself that? And if you have not, then you might want to give it some thought to figure out what your strengths are and what your purpose might be. How can you give back? Because often giving back is the best possible thing that we can do. Maintaining the connection, even one-to-one. It doesn't have to be a group of 50 people. For some people, perhaps coming here today was a little overwhelming. But starting small, one-to-one conversation, and an illustration of that, since you mentioned COVID, is during that period when we were all isolated in our homes, a lot of which I've actually blocked out. I haven't quite figured that out yet, but I don't remember a lot of details about that period. But I do remember that one of my neighbors had the idea of, let's have some neighborhood driveway gatherings. Okay, and you know, maybe you did the same thing, but we had not done that previously. And we started getting together in the driveway. Everybody would be bringing something that they wanted to cook. And we sat together in our chairs and talked and talked. And over the months, even the men were talking about how much of a lifesaver it really was, because we were all isolated and not seeing people. And I must say that as time went on and we had, let's say St. Patrick's Day or Halloween, the food started getting better and better as we had a theme going. And so that's a good illustration of maintaining or creating connection, because we had some new people join us. People would be driving by and honking because they'd see, 10 or 12 of us out in the driveway. If you're in a season of quiet or grief, or something has happened, or you're recovering from a surgery, let's say, give yourself some grace. Give yourself some time, but don't let that define you. I know that when I had knee surgery several years ago, I was mad. I was angry. I did not want to be stuck. I did not want to ask someone else to bring me the cup of coffee I really needed. And I wasn't doing anything. But we have to kind of turn that around and see what we can do to connect with other people if we are in that time of our lives, but not to let it define us or not to let it last. I don't think I have anything else to add to that.
Okay. Well, let's explore that a little bit further. Robin, is there an actual effect on brain health from loneliness?
Yes.
What does it look like?
So we go to the animal kingdom for that, because nobody's willing to, do this study and just open up my brain.
Right.
So that's fair. That's fair. So they looked at lots of different animals, bumblebees, rodents, monkeys, and they found that the forced social isolation led to major biological, behavioral, and brain changes. All right. So this rat can't hang out with his rat friends anymore. So what kind of things happened? Fewer new brain cells were made compared to the other people. Existing brain cells didn't connect and communicate as well. So that's a big thing. And then the protective coating around the nerve fibers, which helps the messages travel, became weaker. So the brain was not working as well in 3 different components. So I'm figuring if that's the rat is getting a little lonely, imagine what we are going through.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to throw in a study, and I like to cite my sources because nobody does that anymore.
Right.
Everybody just says, there was a study, and they just go on. This was Julianne Holt-Lundstad, professor of psychology and neuroscience at Brigham Young University. And she found the lack of social connection, same health risk as smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Wow.
That really hits it home for me. Also, the same risk as having an alcohol use disorder, and social isolation, twice as harmful to your physical and mental health as obesity. So we think obesity is the big nasty and cigarettes, but just as important is not being isolated. That's how much we need that.
Okay. That's kind of be convicting,
Yeah.
especially if we're in a season where it's like, I just want to be by myself.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, that's a little scary.
Yes.
Let's move on from loneliness and talk about the importance of sleep.
Okay.
Well, I struggled with this from time to time, started trying to figure out what was going on. I realized that the light from the computer, the blue light that I thought was being filtered out, was really messing up my sleep. So I couldn't be at the computer and then just go to bed. And that had never been the case before. I already knew that coffee impacted my sleep. Some time ago, I knew that I could not drink coffee. I used to take a coffee cup to bed, watch,
Wow.
Letterman or something.
That's impressive.
Yeah,
Yes.
but no, not anymore, because it just interrupts the ability to fall asleep and to stay asleep. And the reason sleep is so important is that it removes the toxins that have built up over the course of the day.
So it's a
It
cleaning
refreshes.
process?
It's like a cleaning process. Think of it as cleaning house, because that's probably a very good analogy. It gets rid of the brain waste, and it helps to manage depression and anxiety. How do you feel the day after when you haven't slept? Are you a bit cranky? Nobody has to raise their hand. But I know that this is true. I may be cranky later because last night I just didn't sleep well. It increases anxiety because maybe we're not able to perform well and we're increasingly irritable. So the brain has not restored, and that's why it's important. And it's also important to address it and to explore it further. I learned that my Kindle was also producing some light that was bothering me. I could read for an hour previously, and then I wouldn't be able to fall asleep. So now I've dimmed the light. I haven't fired up my new Kindle that avoids all that, but using the old one that does not filter properly, and I would never have thought about it, except for just stepping back and trying to figure out, well, why can't I sleep? Usually a book puts me to sleep.
Right.
So there are things to consider as you sort it out and do some research about sleep issues and see if you can kind of figure it out for yourself, and talk with your doctor as well, because it's really critical to our brain.
Robin, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, when we talk about Alzheimer's, you hear the amyloid, beta, and tau proteins being thrown around, that may be what we're fighting with. So your brain is making that stuff every day. But then your detox system comes in. You get that 7 hours of sleep, hopefully. The little garbage truck goes around your brain and cleans everything up. So what we're seeing in Alzheimer's is the accumulation of these proteins. Now, I can't say there's a direct correlation, but if you get that time asleep, then your body naturally will get rid of those things that shouldn't be there. It's also helping with your memory while you're sleeping. You may be asleep, but your brain is like, okay, we're going to take everything we've learned today, and maybe this goes in long-term memory, this we don't need to know anymore. So it's organizing, right? It's putting things in the file cabinet. So when you don't get that good, restful sleep, your brain's not able to do the functions that it needs to do to get you through another great day. And also your hormones get messed up. We have a bad night of sleep, you're usually going to crave some junk food the next day. because you need that hit, right?
Right.
To keep going.
And we know that that's not good for
That's not good for us either.
So it can be a nasty spiral.
Yeah. So if you're not getting sleep, talk to your doctor.
Okay, so we've talked about community, social engagements, physical activity, loneliness, sleep. What about stress? Does anybody here experience stress?
Yeah.
Chris?
It is part of our lives on a daily basis, whether we're working in the community and have a lot of job pressures, or whether we are feeling family pressures and responsibilities. Stress is there. And the idea is to be aware of it, aware of the impact it's having upon you, and that it increases the cortisol in the brain, which just doesn't slow down and doesn't shut off. And it does further physical damage over a long period of time to the heart, to the brain, to our joints. Chronic stress is really very damaging. So what do you do about it? Well, one solution would be to be sure that you are exercising and eating right and doing all the things we've already talked about, sleep and all the rest of it, to decrease that stress and decrease the negative things from firing up and impacting your body. Because over a long period of time, it's just a very damaging thing. And it's invisible. We think, well, we're doing everything. We've got everything done on that list. I remember years ago when I was working and doing a lot of different juggling than I'm doing now, I would be weeding at 8 o'clock at night in the dark with the light of the lamppost because it was on my list and I was going to get it done before I went back to work on Monday. And that was really stupid because I did not enjoy it, and it just was increasing my stress and my inability to debrief and to slow down before bed and all of that. And I know you've heard this before. We all have. But it's something to really focus on and just to be aware of so you can be in control of it.
So we might need to find some points of leverage in our lives
Yes.
to take some of that stuff off our plate. Robin,
Right.
is there anything you could add to that?
So each part of the brain does something different. It's really fascinating the more you look at, like, one thing controls this, one thing over here controls that. The amygdala is our stress part of the brain. And that, when we're stressed, is working hard because it thinks I need to survive. It doesn't realize it's only a report that needs to get done. It's going, whoop, all systems on alert. And then if you're done in an hour or the next day, things go back to normal. But if you're always living with your amygdala working overtime, it's like your muscles. If I only work on this muscle and not this one, it's going to get really big and this one isn't. So when your amygdala is going crazy all the time from stress, the rest of your brain is not working as hard. So your executive function, this, that, it's not getting the blood. And it's kind of like, oh, we're good. She doesn't need us right now. So you've got to have your amygdala, your survival, fight, or flight, stay calm. Obviously, it can come back to normal after a small stress or
Sure.
something that lasts a few days. But if it's nonstop, it's not good.
That makes a lot of sense. In our pre-seminar discussion, we talked at pretty good length about mindfulness. That sounds kind of out there. What role does mindfulness play in brain health?
Mindfulness is really very important, and it's something that we can practice, that we can learn how to do it, because for some people it may be a little bit difficult. But it's the idea of being very intentional, focusing on what you are doing or saying or who you are with now, and in this present moment. And that increases all of the positive things that we've been talking about. A good example would be being able to really concentrate, for example, today. Now, if you're thinking about your grocery list for Easter and how you have to make 4 stops this afternoon and get everything done before perhaps a family or a neighborhood gathering or whatever, you're not being as mindful as you could be if you could learn to set that aside and focus on the now. The same thing, if you're in church thinking about your grocery list and you're not hearing or concentrating, you're not getting the benefit of whatever that experience actually is. So the idea of being present and teaching yourself how to do that. You know what it's like to be talking to somebody and you're looking at them and they're looking over here or scanning the room to see who came in. They're not really being mindful of you at that particular given time. But that is something that all of us can learn to do. Takes some practice, just like anything else. But it's better for our concentration and for our focus and for our interactions with other people, as well as our brain.
Awesome.
Yeah. Just our health in general, meditation can lower your blood pressure, ease your stress, and improve your thinking. And if you learn it the right way, it could actually help with chronic pain. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
But they're now looking into when you get into a meditative state, they think the brain is doing the same thing it does when you're sleeping. So if you can get into that concentrated place, which is hard to do, then your brain's going to have an extra cleanup time, which is nice. And we talked about somebody who taught us both about meditation. She said, I'll never forget, it's simple, but it's not easy. So focusing on one thing and then forgiving yourself, because your brain is going to change all over the place, and just saying, oh, we're not doing that right now, and bringing it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We moved someone to a community recently, and she was saying how she was so keyed up right before the move because this had to happen and that had to happen, and she was just going through her list, and she said, nope. She had to physically tell herself, stop. I've got help to do these things. This is going to get done. And it was work to bring herself back to a point where she could go to sleep because she was so keyed up. So mindfulness is something that she had learned, but it was physical for her. She said out loud, I have to stop this negative spiral. I need to focus on the positive. Take a breath, did some deep breathing and things like that. It was a very physical thing that she did in her mind, which I think is kind of interesting. So, expanding on this a little bit, the negativity that comes with what feels like 20 doctor's appointments and a different ache or pain, or I've got 8 things on my to-do list that I didn't get done yesterday, so then I've got all the things from yesterday and today. Robin, what do we do if we're struggling in a negative spiral? How do we find positivity?
We got to train ourselves for gratitude. My name is not Oprah Winfrey, but I do believe in the gratitude practice. And so I started, my phone would go off every day at 6 p.m. with the prompt, my life is so amazing because, and I would have to put something in that blank. So then I'd have to go through the day. But then you start to go, okay, I know this assignment is coming up. So you start looking for the good. And sometimes it was like, oh my God, I got this great parking place. It was an errand I didn't want to do, but I had A1, the best VIP parking place there was to have. So if you get into that habit of reporting into yourself the great thing that happened to you today, your brain is going to start looking for the good instead of looking for the bad.
Yeah. Gratitude definitely can shift your thought process. Chris, what do you suggest for overcoming negativity when that starts to consume your thoughts?
I like to think of the concept of the glass half full or glass half empty, and to work on that so that even though things happen, because they do happen to all of us, that we can try to turn the experience around to think about what we got out of it, what were we meant to see perhaps, and how can we cultivate a mindset that's positive. And gratitude is certainly one of those things. Sometimes we just have to stop and breathe deeply for several minutes, and just to try to stop to reset. I think establishing some boundaries as well is really important in this instance, and just learning how to decide what's important to us. Many, many years ago, I learned and continue to cultivate the phrase, "Let me think about it," when I was asked to do something. When it was first mentioned to me, it was just a radical concept, because I automatically would say, yeah, I can bring 24 cupcakes to the class. When do you want them? Or I can do this, or I can be on that committee, or be on the PTA, whatever, back in the day. But learning that phrase really helped me to pick and choose, what do I want to do? How do I want to spend my energy and my time? Because I think we all get pulled into doing things that we really might not enjoy. We don't really want to do that, right? I see some heads nodding. And we are gracious people, and we want to do our best, and we want to help out our friend. And so we will say yes. And then after, I mean, I've done it. I mean, why did I ever agree to do that, whatever that is?
I used to have a sticker on my fridge in my garage that said, "This was a good idea 3 months ago."
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a sticker on my refrigerator that says, "Who was I before I put myself last?" Think about that. Who was I before I put myself last? And that's very hard, but the concept of balance is very, very important in answering that question. Learn when you are out of balance. When the irritability goes up, the crankiness goes up, the feeling of being overwhelmed and you just want to crawl into bed under a blanket rises. Think about whether you're really in balance or if it's looking something like this. And then you want to try to keep things even and maintain. Often the next step of that, being out of balance, is the negativity and the spiraling thoughts. So that's why it's really important to focus upon that.
Love that. Thank you both. So as we wrap up, before we get to the Q&A portion, I always like to give our attendees some homework.
Okay.
So one action tip or an action step that our attendees can take today to improve their brain health, besides visiting the Conquest mobile unit and getting your brain tested. And if you didn't get scheduled today, we can get you scheduled at another time.
You are going to call up a friend and try out a new restaurant. So,
Call a friend and go to a new restaurant?
Yes. I want you.
Anybody up for that? That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, go to a restaurant you've never been to before, because you're going to have to navigate streets you may not have been on, encounter a new menu. Your brain is working, you're having conversation, your brain is working. That's a pretty easy assignment, right?
I don't know. Can you guys do that?
Yeah.
All right. Chris, is yours that easy?
Not quite. But I think that's a good idea. It reminds me of when I worked in Winter Park and came into Winter Park the same way, left the same way. And one day I thought, I'm going to have a different way. What a refreshing thing that was. I could see what was being built and torn down. And so try to turn things around. Shift up your routine while you're doing all the other things that we talked about. And that's really not terribly difficult to do. In Brain Fitness Academy, we talk with our members about neuroplasticity. Has anyone heard that word before? Basically, it's the fact that our brains at any age can learn new things. It used to be thought that only children could learn new things and grow. But as adults at any age, we are capable of learning and doing things differently and firing up that brain through all the things we talked about, the sleep, the exercise, the food, all of that. And one thing you can do is look up, if you use a computer, hopefully, the Pointer study, which makes a very strong endorsement of this idea that we've been practicing in brain fitness for some time, of the mind and body connection. They proved it in that study with, I don't remember the number of people that were part of that study, but it was significant and found to be a very, very positive thing to maintain that mind and body connection with the socialization and all of the things that we have been talking about today.
Awesome. Well, there you go. You got to do a little research,
Yeah.
and you get to go out to dinner at a fun new place. And we have the benefit of living in a place where there are all kinds of new
Yes.
restaurants or restaurants that you've never been to and always wanted to try. So with that said, I know our educational partners have the microphones somewhere back there. We've got a couple of questions. Can we bring a microphone up forward? We'll get to you in just a second. Carl has a question right there in the second row.
How much did we inherit from DNA, and it's not our own choice?
Ah, okay. So when it comes to brain health, how much of that is DNA, and if our parent had a dementia or Alzheimer's?
And in our family?
And your family. It's a possibility. I don't think we'll find out that most of the cases are genetic. There is one gene that increases your risk, but there are a lot of things to do to decrease your risk. So if you just go, oh, well, listen, my dad had cancer, so I didn't smoke, right? There are things you can do. I can't offer you any guarantees in the world. If I could, I would have a lot of money. But there is a possibility you've got a stronger risk of having it, but it's not a definite thing.
That's great news.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Elaine had a question.
I wanted to ask if you could talk about whether there's a difference between being alone and being lonely. Because it makes me think about people that might really enjoy like getting in their workshop or their garden or whatever, spending a whole day by themselves and at the end of the day feeling like that was a really good day and never having feelings of loneliness entering.
That's a great question. I'm an only child, right? So my son is an only child, and it's like there would be times when we were living in the same house where we would not talk for hours. What's the difference between being alone and being lonely?
I'll take this and then you can maybe answer correctly. I think if you've been in your shed doing things all day, doing things you enjoy, gardening, whatever, that's good for you. I appreciate a day when my husband is out of the house, trust me. But do I want that 3 days in a row? No, I start to miss it. So it's just like exercise. You have your rest day, but you can't make every day the alone day. Does that make sense? Okay.
I think the difference between pursuing an activity alone in your home and being on the sofa under a blanket, only watching television, are significant differences. So that would be more leading to loneliness, the lack of interaction that we talked about before, the lack of connection and being with other people. But having meaningful, creative pursuits is a positive thing. Activities that have meaning. I mentioned finding your purpose earlier. So for those people, I would love to see them maybe take a step to maybe a one-on-one, having coffee with someone. Maybe they don't want to invite 20 people for coffee and make it a big thing, but one-on-one, inviting a person into your world to hear what they have to say and what they're doing. But having activities that have meaning put you ahead of the game in many respects. And if money is an issue, because some things are tuition-based and costly, explore what's available to you at your library. I think those are underutilized resources in general. And most of them are doing amazing things. I mean, when did the library ever have sewing machines to teach people to sew? And so that is something to look into if you don't want to sign up for something that commits you for longer and you're not sure. Usually you can have a test run of something. So don't dismiss that.
I think that's why all of our communities that are our educational partner communities, we talk oftentimes about the plethora of activities that they're offering, because it does give you options to try things, most of which, I mean, they do have some extra cost items, but most of the activities are included in the everyday.
Right, and some built-in socialization,
Sure.
because often they are hosting a knitting group or a book club or some other kind of group that will put you in touch with other people.
Yeah.
Because that is important.
Any other questions? We've got one up front here. Bobby?
Does a to-do list help positivity?
Does a to-do list help positivity, or does it stress you out?
I think if it's manageable, sometimes I've been taught, write down it, and I'm like, there is too much. It overwhelms me if I have a long to-do list. That's me. But somebody might enjoy that.
Feel good crossing
Feel
it
good.
off.
Crossing them out.
I like a ta-da list. This is what I got done. Ta-da!
I like that. I like that. How many of you have had a to-do list and weeding wasn't on that list, and you went out and did some weeding and you wrote it on the list and then you crossed it off, right? How many of us have done that? Why?
Do we get a dopamine hit? when
Well,
we
I
do
think
it?
it's to give ourselves credit.
Yes.
To give ourselves credit and a pat on the back for activity, for doing something, accomplishing something. I think that having a to-do list helps us feel in control.
Oh.
I think that's why I like lists.
It's a memory thing.
What did you say?
It's a memory thing too.
It's a memory thing.
Chris
It can
thinks
really
it's a
help us
memory
with
thing.
memory, right? To capture what might have been
Don't forget.
fleeting by, to get it on paper, and we're then accountable in some way.
And I think I find that a list can be a little stress relieving too, because if I'm in that place where I've got all these things going on, let me just brain dump them onto a piece of paper, and then I can organize when I'm gonna do them or whatever.
And then you get nice paper.
Huh?
A
That's what I've
nice.
done.
Nicole is
nice
a proponent
pen.
of that. Yeah.
My children joke with me all the time because sometimes I will get a card in the mail and it's really on nice, the envelope is really nice stock.
Yeah.
Right? Some paper is flimsy and it's not very. And so I started saving some of the better envelopes. And so they're always joking with me about whether they can throw something away or we sent you a card that has really good paper.
Because we know you'll keep
Because we
it.
know you'll use it. So that sort of goes along if you do keep lists, is to have a nice feel to the paper.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that. Chris, you have a question?
I have a comment.
Brittany, can you help Chris out? Thank you.
Yeah, you were mentioning about the gene that with Alzheimer's and stuff.
Right.
It's like you can go and get tested, a blood test at K2
Yes.
Charter, I don't know, Conquest, but those people will do that and
Yeah.
tell you you're a risk. So,
And you guys did the brain test, which
well, that was a different test.
that was a
This is
different
memory
test.
Right.
But I highly recommend getting that baseline screening. Because by the time there's a problem, your doctor doesn't know your brain from before.
So I know we need to wrap up, but let me ask this question because I believe Medicare gives you a test every year, like when you go for your physical. why should we be going to, and we're really blessed here in Orlando with a
Yes.
lot, and Conquest is a great partner of ours, to do this free test. What's the difference?
It's more involved. Like if they're just asking you 7 questions, it may just be testing one area of your brain. I haven't had that test, but to get that baseline, like if you have never had your blood pressure taken and you go to the emergency room, they don't know if you're normal, if that's normal for you, or if it's abnormal because they don't know a baseline for you. So it's the same with our brains. We know brain change is dementia, so let's look at what it is now and then what differences there might be.
Gotcha. Did we have one more question?
Yeah, right behind me.
This is on.
Yeah, it is.
Robin, where would you recommend getting this test done?
I would say Conquest. Yes. They work with us. K2 also does, and I'm forgetting some, but
Plain Cloud?
yeah, Plin Club. We have great partners and
My Memory Clinic. I
My
mean,
Memory
there
Clinic,
are
yes.
a lot here in the Orlando area. We know Conquest best because they help us put the seminar series on, but there are a lot of options, and most of them have at least some level of free.
yes, we love free.
Yes, we do.
And it's not put in your medical record if you request that.
Oh, okay.
So let's say they highlight something. You've got time to go get the proper insurance and get things in place. I shouldn't be telling you this, by the way. We'll keep it between all of us, right? But let's say there is a little bit of a problem. You can get things done before it's part of your medical record. Does that make sense?
Super secret intel there. All right. Well, we're gonna get wrapped up. Did we try to sell you anything?
No.
Good. But what are you gonna do with what you learned today, besides make a reservation and call a friend, right?
that
And get
suggestion.
tested.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that you're our connection to the world. We do want to see this audience grow because we think we're bringing good content. And you probably know someone that could benefit from coming to one of our seminars, so invite a friend. And maybe you can tie it into your homework and plan to come here and then go to a new restaurant for lunch afterwards.
That's a great idea.
We do need to collect those blue sheets from you before you leave, so you can give them to Andre or Nicole or to me or one of the educational partners. Just be sure to put your name on it. And our next seminar is on May 21st. We're going to be tackling the topic, I've fallen and I can't get up. Gonna be a fun one. And if you would like to come on one of our 3 remaining community tours, you can indicate that. Or if you want to come to the April 25th workshop, we'd love to see you there. We love to do a quote at the end every time, and this one is from a gentleman named John Green. There is hope, even when your brain tells you there isn't. So go forth with some hope and share that with others today. Thank you so much.